Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Zach Drew. I'm grateful that you were able to join me for today's program. It's going to be a wild one. Some of the articles for consideration today that are going to be the focus. Two new articles, one being over 140,000 farms lost in the last 5 years. The next article, the Globalist Plan to eliminate all farms. No more food, no more humans. Also, an article detailing an initiative launched in 2021. Biden-Harris administration outlines America the Beautiful Initiative. A New York Times article from 1976. UN meeting urges curb on private land holding. And in 1992, the UN's Agenda 21, the precursor to Agenda 2030, reframed this land grab in the context of wildlife conservation. Land, 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 land. Likely, within my lifetime, our federal government will own 50% or more of all land within the United States. This will also force people into smaller, more densely populated areas, an unforeseen consequence, I'm sure. Buy land. It will be worth its price in gold. There are about 5 things that are destroying farmers in America, and the reasons, they just get more sinister as you go down that list. It's farms right now, owning your land. Then it will be about owning your car. Then homes and other real estate, precious metals like gold and silver. It's about property. It's about private property. Property in this country, items of physical value, physical assets, things you can touch, right, are the enemy to the global world order. You owning things. And that's why one day you'll own nothing and be happy about it, right? Like the WEF's promotional video from a few years back. You know, so why are they going after land right now? We know their answer is climate change, but what's the real answer? Why take property in America? I believe that answer is twofold. But the first one, the foundational one, is it's about property. Here from the Cato Institute, property is the foundation of every right we have, including the right to be free. Every right claim, after all, is a claim to something, either a defensive claim to keep what one is holding or an offensive claim to something someone else is holding. John Locke, the philosophical father of the American Revolution and the inspiration for Thomas Jefferson when he drafted the Declaration of Independence, stated the issue simply: lives, liberties, and estates, which I call by the general name property. And James Madison, the principal author of the Constitution, echoed those thoughts when he wrote, "As a man is said to have a right to his property, he may be equally said to have a property in his rights." America's founders understood clearly that private property is the foundation, not only of prosperity, but of freedom itself. And therefore, through common law, state law, the Constitution, right, they protected property rights. The rights of people to acquire, use, and dispose of property freely. You know, before we even continue, because this is going to be a deep show, this is going to be a deep one, I just want to remind you that topics like these, in keeping you informed on world events through a biblical perspective, it's why you tune in each week, week after week. And I want to remind you that everyone that watches this program, the only way we can do what we do is through faithful viewers like you who support us. I really need your help this year. I'm asking that everyone gets involved. I'm praying for a miracle. The Lord knows we need one. There are there are too few voices speaking about what is really happening in the world through a Christian perspective. And the social media platforms, they have shadow banned our shows to such a degree, the only way that we will survive here is by word of mouth. Tell your friends about this program. Tell them to watch this program. If you want to support this ministry, just go to zachdrewshow.com and click that bright orange donate button. It's that easy. And you'll have the option there to donate through Tithely, our Christian online payment system, or PayPal, whatever is easiest for you. And whenever you are filling that out, please consider checking that little, you'll have the option on Tithely for automated payment, right? And that button, if you click it, we will know that we can count on you each and every month. We need your help. Or you could write us the old-fashioned way through the mail, Zach Drew Show. That's P.O. Box 797, Decatur, Illinois, 62525. We really do need your help. Please get involved. All right, let's get into the first article. Over 140,000 farms lost in 5 years. Between 2017 and 2022, the number of farms in the U.S. declined by 141,733, or 7%, according to the USDA's 2022 Census of Agriculture. And I'm going to let you know why. It's not by accident. It is by deliberate design. This was released on February 13th. Acres operated by farm operations during the same time frame declined by 20.1 million. Wow, a loss equivalent to the area the size of Maine, 20.1 million acres. That's unbelievable. Only 1.88% of acres operated, okay, of that 20.1 million, and 1% of farm operations were classified under a non-family corporate farm structure. That means that nearly 100% of the 140,000 farms, remember that article, the article says over 140,000 farms lost in 5 years. That means that nearly 100% of the 140,000 farms lost and the 20.1 million acres were held by family and individual filings and family-held corporations. Make no mistake about it, there is a globalist plan to destroy and eliminate all privately held farms. Much of the world's farming community is still in the dark about this globalist plot to take over their land and to render it desolate. And it's all in the name of going net zero for the climate. As explained by author Dr. Vernon Coleman, go ahead and put that on the screen. This is what he had to say. The innocent and the naive believe that everything is happening by accident. Farmers around the world seem constantly bewildered by policies and decisions that are designed to please the enthusiasts, calling for the closure of farms in order to appease those calling for global net zero emissions. Many farmers are simply confused. They describe these new government policies as vindictive, senseless, cruel, destructive, insane, bureaucratic, dangerous, and even just plain bewildered. They can't make sense of it, right? Farmers are encouraged to even follow biodynamic farming methods whereby herbal and mineral preparations are used together with an astronomical calendar to guide sowing and harvesting dates. These greenies, as so many call them, they're no longer beating around the bush when it comes to their true agenda. Many of them state flat out and in public that if the world's farms cannot be sustainable, as defined by the globalists, then they have to go. That's right. Actually, in an article in a British magazine, one leading green academic recently said, quote, "Farming has no option. It will have to be sustainable. Otherwise, it will not be sustained." A backdoor elimination of fertilizer, livestock, and farms by all means necessary is underway. The elimination of these. In 2022, we're going to lay the foundation a little bit. We got to go back in time. And then we're going to go way back in time. And then we're going to go way, way back in time. In 2022, the historic Inflation Reduction Act, remember that? 2022? It was passed by Senate Democrats and signed into law by President Biden. It was a $740 billion package, right? Well, let me remind you that there were parts in that document that specifically targeted American farmers and the farming industry. If you don't remember, watch this.
In the bill, in fact, I want to page 529 of the Inflation Reduction Act. It will pay farmers to not farm. They want to restore the soil. So the measures will include plowing your soil less, implementing climate-friendly crop rotation techniques, and planting cover crops that do not yield any food. There's $20 billion available September 30th now to diminish the climate impact from farms. They are going to start paying farmers not to farm, and then you'll be fine. They're also going to now, I would like to say encourage you, but what they're going to do to the farmers is tell them exactly how they can farm. They're going to tell them now, just like they are over in Europe, where the farmers are going out of business and on the streets protesting. They are now going to tell them that they have to adopt more climate-friendly provisions. They are going to regulate what you can feed your cow. They're going to also tell you what you can grow, how you grow it, what you can use as fertilizer. And the fertilizer that we're all used to, you know, the one that grows 1/3 more than the old fertilizer, you're not going to be able to use that. Farmers all around the world are going in on this nonsense. It's not working all around the world. And we've just implemented it. And we're hiring 87,000 new IRS agents to make sure you comply. This is going to devastate our farmers.
How irrational, right? How irrational does a government have to be anti-farming, right? It doesn't make sense, and it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to, because it's evil, it's wicked, it's dark. They operate in this sense where it's not supposed to make sense, because if it made sense, they would do the right thing. You know, we think that our government had our best interest in mind. This all ties into the 2021 initiative, and then once again, it ties into something way further back. We're going to go. Remember this article, okay? That we talked about this article on the show before, back in 2021. Biden-Harris administration outlines America the Beautiful initiative. So Biden-Harris, America the Beautiful initiative, outlining a locally led and voluntary nationwide conservation goal to conserve 30% of U.S. lands and waters by 2030. So that's 30% of land in the U.S. government owned. And they talk about 50% by 2050. Listen, people, if you want to leave an inheritance for your children and your children's children, my gosh, invest in land, because it's going to be worth gold in the future. If you think land is expensive now, wait until 50% of every acre is owned by the U.S. government, right? I mean, this is just fine. And by the way, don't sue me. You can't, because guess why? I'm not a financial advisor. This is not a financial advice. There's the disclaimer. Can't sue me. Even though it's fantastic advice, you should do it. But also, it's not financial advice, because I can't give that. All right, the report calls for a decade-long effort to support locally led and voluntary conservation and restoration efforts across public, private, and tribal lands and waters in order to create jobs and strengthen the economy's foundation, tackle the climate and nature crisis, and address inequitable access to the outdoors. So, developed by the U.S. Departments of the Interior, developed by the U.S. Departments of the Interior, Agriculture, and Commerce, and the White House Council on Environmental quality, it outlines 8 principles, including a pursuit of collaborative approaches, a commitment to supporting the voluntary conservation efforts of farmers, ranchers, and fishers, and honoring of tribal sovereignty and private property rights. So I guess a couple of questions you're going to have to ask yourself. Hello, how can the government take 50% of the land of this country and not infringe on private property rights, right? This is America the Beautiful Initiative. I mean, it states that they want 30% by 2030 and 50% by 2050 of all the land, every acre in America. How is it going to happen without infringing on our private property rights, right? Well, one solution will be the Constitution is amended, but that's not going to happen. At least it's not going to happen anytime at all soon, right? That's just, we're not there. Here's another option. They will force you out naturally through ESG, right? The government can do what they want. Whatever they want, they can do to you. They can find a way to take you out, take you down. Another option is this. You're going to see this. Wait for it. It will be a voluntary thing. The next big push you're going to see in the left is going to be to sacrificially give up your land to the government, all in the name of climate change. Just do your part, right? So for the survival of us all, do it. Just give it up. You don't really need it. Liberals are going to eat this up. You just need to do the right thing. You don't need all that land. Because once again, you're going to be considered a part of the cultural hegemony if you're going to, we're going to get out our list, right? White male, cisgendered American, able-bodied Christian, you're the enemy in America. We should add landowners to that because you're going to be deemed as oppressors here soon. Landowners will be considered a part of the cultural hegemony. If you own land, you're going to be an oppressor. Mark my words. So once again, don't forget, give up your whiteness because you cannot be proud of the color you are. That is, unless you are any other color other than white, then you can be proud. But if you're white, you can't be proud that you have, you can't be proud of your culture at all, right? You can also give up your masculinity. Your toxic masculinity, because all masculinity in all forms is toxic. Give up your patriotism, you wicked Christian nationalist. Also, give up your sexuality, you cisgendered man. You think you're a man because you have a between your legs. Come on, give it up. Gender's fluid. And give up your land, you oppressor. And ultimately, give up your faith. Give up your faith. Because, well, we know that the Bible is the most oppressive document ever written in this artificial document in the history of all mankind. You've got to give it up. It's oppressing. It oppresses the masses, of all kinds. The president's challenge is to call to action to support locally led conservation and restoration efforts. Locally led. Okay, so it's locally led, but also, by the way, once again, it's developed by the Department of the Interior, Agriculture, and Commerce and the White House Council on Environmental Equality. So it's locally led, but yet it was delivered by them. Okay, doesn't make sense. Once again, why are they going after the land? Why? The actual answer is not climate change. America's founders understood that private property is the foundation not only of prosperity, but of freedom itself. So when the greenies talk about rewilding, this conservation effort, they do not just mean parklands, wetlands, and other already mostly natural environments. They also mean your farm, your house, not to mention the entirety of commerce and industry as it currently occupies the landscape, the powers that be feel as though only they deserve to live. You and your family, well, they just have to disappear so that they can expand their natural habitats and create a new Garden of Eden-like environment for their own pleasure and enjoyment, just without you in it. John Brown, with Band.video, created a special report called The Farm Wars. Here are a couple minutes from this report that I think they're important for us today. Take a listen.
Every farmer is warning us from every field on God's green earth. A reckoning is imminent. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are galloping on the horizon.
Last year in the United States, we lost over 500,000 farms. We lost over 125 million acres of farmland.
Gates alone holds over 275,000 acres across 19 states.
Our government allowed 2 giant companies controlled by foreign governments to come in and acquire. One of them is controlled by the Chinese, and they bought Smithfield out of North Carolina. And the other one was a Brazilian company that came in and bought up one of the other major players. Why would we want to have an antagonist own 25% of our meat processing? It makes no sense at all.
Convoys of hundreds of tractors and trucks have slowed or blocked the traffic on major roads, leading to major cities in the last 3 weeks. And many of the protesting farmers in France have also stopped after the government there offered a series of financial concessions. And they've also blocked numerous border crossings with the Netherlands. In Portugal, farmers have partly blocked a key bridge on a main road into Lisbon.
In the Netherlands, it was about fertilizer. In Germany, it's about the so-called diesel privilege. In France, it's about restrictions on the use of pesticides.
The CIA media and its satellite propagandists are covering up a global revolution that is far worse than any war. Engineered global starvation in order to rein in the GMO agricultural control of the United Nations Agenda 2030 and the Great Reset.
Climate transition is a key priority for our societies. We need to make sure that our farmers can be a partner in this.
With our new climate and nature plan, we focus on the following 3 things. First, the green transition.
While a backdoor elimination of fertilizer, livestock, and farms by any means necessary is well underway.
In order to get net zero, we'd have to kill all the animals, including ourselves. Food and energy. Nothing else is as important as those 2 things. Water, right? It's part of food. They haven't decided to cut the water off just yet.
You know, climate change is a bit abstract. Some people understand it really well. Some understand it a bit. Some just don't understand it. Water. Every kid knows how important it is to have water. When you're playing football and you're thirsty, you need water.
4 billion of us depend on nitrogen fertilizer, which they now say is bad because it's a greenhouse gas or whatever.
And in particular, what the net zero movement does is it ignores the benefits of fossil fuels and it exaggerates the negative side effects. That's the key thing that's going wrong. Fossil fuels are crucial to the availability of food for 8 billion people in 2 ways. So anyone want to suggest what are the ways in which fossil fuels are crucial to food? Fertilizer, so that's one. So modern fertilizer is derived from natural gas. We cannot feed 8 billion people without plentiful fertilizer. Before natural gas, we were trying to use bat guano. That was our best fertilizer. Bat guano didn't scale very well to 8 billion people. Natural gas is crucial. There's nothing close to natural gas in terms of fertilizer.
Meanwhile, a tsunami of illegals is slowly reintroducing screwworms and hoof and mouth disease, and everybody dies. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
All of these sinister plans are happening right under our nose, but people are asleep. Once again, he started out by that video saying, every farmer is warning us from every field on God's green earth that a reckoning is imminent, led by famine. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are galloping from the horizon. So the globalists, many filled with the Antichrist spirit, want the vast majority of the population concentrated in large cities, okay? So we've kind of went from property to land to stealing your farms to, is it really all about population control? And they want us intensely populated because they can monitor us through the hive mind technology that's coming where we're all connected. And this was actually stated in 2030, in Agenda 2030. But it actually goes a lot further back than that. As far back in the news as 1976, here's a quick excerpt from a New York Times article from 1976. Let's read that. UN meeting urges curb on private land holding. Land, because of its unique nature and the crucial role it plays in human settlement, cannot be treated as an ordinary asset, controlled by individuals, and subject to the pressures of inefficiencies on the market. Private land ownership is also a principal instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth, and therefore contributes to social injustice. This is 1976, okay? Don't forget that. This wasn't written, while Obama was president. If unchecked, it may become a major obstacle in the planning and implementation of development schemes. Social justice, urban renewal and development, the provision of decent dwellings and healthy conditions for people can only be achieved if land is used in the interest of society as a whole. So in 1992, the UN Agenda 21, the precursor of Agenda 2030, reframed this land grab in the context of wildlife conservation. So this is the timeline. So Agenda 21, let's put this on the screen, is a 40-chapter master plan to reorganize national law to the socialist principles of central power. The United States signed Agenda 21 during the 1992 Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro in 1992. Chapter 15.3 requires urgent and decisive action be taken to conserve and maintain genes, species, and ecosystems with a view to the sustainable management and use of biological resources. And from this, the United Nations and international allies designed the Convention on Biological Diversity to be the workhorse in fulfilling these requirements. This led to the Wildlands Project. The Wildlands Project cordoned off sections of the U.S. into what is called reserve core areas where humans are prohibited. Then it marked off land around these areas that is called buffer zones where human travel was severely restricted. Here is the map they created. Look at this map. The red represents the core zones, right? Core zones where humans are prohibited. And the yellow is the buffer zones. The buffer zones are where human travel was severely restricted. This is the actual map that they created. As you can see, it's most of the United States. When this map was shown in front of the U.S. Senate in 1994, the Biodiversity Treaty, which would have essentially put all of this into effect and which was scheduled to be ratified, was taken off the schedule by the House Majority Leader at the time. And Agenda 2030 is just the continuation of Agenda 21. That's where we're at right now, the WEF's Agenda 2030. Goal 15, we went through it like 1,000 times on the show, the 15 goals of their agenda. You can find it on their website. Goal 15 is this: protect, restore, promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. These rewilding or biodiversity goals will force people of rural areas into cities, or they can be easily controlled. And I'm totally out of time, so I just got to play this video really quickly. Listen, I just got to say, get into your word, get into your word. Everything that we've talked about, it's all in the Bible. We are living in the end of times. These things, famine is referred to. It's one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We are in end times. Remember the video back in 2016 of a promotional material that the WE at the World Economic Forum released for everybody to see. It was titled, I can't remember what it was titled, but it was 8 predictions that they saw happening within the world but by 2030. And the very first one being, you will own nothing and be happy. Go ahead and play this video and then just fade to black because we're out of time. And just remember, get into your word. God loves you. We'll see you next week.